A fairly heavily asked question. A lot of people want to know, would it be possible to get a status update on the state of Warcry?
Yeah, so we got quite a few questions about Warcry. We didn't cover Warcry in the preview. We will have some Warcry news for you quite soon. One thing we can confirm today is that there are some new Warcry rules on the way, and they will cover, amongst other things, the new Ogre More Tribes miniatures that are on their way.
Great.
Welcome to Optimal Game State. So today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the upcoming Warcry FAQ. Now, in that tiny snippet, in that little video, they did say that we're going to find out more. Whether that's a throwaway or not, I don't know, obviously. But they did say we are going to get an FAQ. Now, the FAQ is going to include the Ogre Maw Tribes. There haven't actually been a lot of Age of Sigmar releases since the last FAQ, which was back in April 2025, so the Hellsmith of Hashut. So in this video, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through like everything I can find that was recently released. Largely, that's these three boxes here. So the Ogre War Tribes that are just coming out now. The Spearhead City of Ash, which had a bunch of new stuff for the City of Sigmar, and then a little bit for the Skaven, and then the Warhammer Quest Darkwater, which had a lot of cool heroes, which we'll talk about in a bit, but more importantly, had a ton of stuff for Nurgle. So let's have a quick whirlwind through this. I'm not going to have rules and profiles yet. We'll have to wait till they come out. But we are going to get a look at some of the models and what we can expect. The important thing is, it is now a time to start getting excited again for Warcry. It's been a while since we've had anything official, and this hopefully will shake up things. And in addition to whatever models that we get new profiles for, we're also going to see maybe some tweaks, maybe some adjustments. Who knows? Could be some other fun stuff in there. So fingers crossed. All right, let's get into it. First up, the Ogre Maw Tribes. We're getting a new Tyrant model. Obviously, we have the Tyrant profile, very effective model, quite expensive, but terrifying once it hits the table. This particular kit can be built a couple of different ways, so there's lots of different options how you do it. This is a character model. So this is Grell Firefist. Now, we'll be mentioning this a few times as we go on. Some of the models that have been released might not get rules. Originally, the idea with Warcry seemed to be that we wouldn't get any of the character models, but that's broken down over the last while. So we got a bunch of vampire models. We got... I can't remember. Brands, Dark Oath. We've had some character models get rules basically in the last while. They've actually been a bit of a weird one because they should be kind of unique because they're single characters, so they have to sit in a kind of Bladeborn. Anyway, whatever. We may or may not get this. If we do, it looks like he's wielding some sort of ad hoc cannon and firing bits of random stuff at people, so that could be interesting. This is a dual kit, so you buy the kit and you can make one of these. So Morgan the Mighty is a character model, and then the Tyrant is obviously a Tyrant, but on a massive beast. Size is going to be a problem for some of the Warcry. Would this qualify for monster rules? Maybe. They might look at doing a redo of the monsters. I don't think they'll look at it for a while, to be honest, but most people don't play monsters. This is going to be a very, very big model. They might give us rules for the Tyrant on Bloodhorn. They have a couple of other mounted ogres, which are kind of scary. Here's another example. So these are maul beasts. So just two varieties, again made from the same box. The raiders have crossbows, and the cavalry are just melee weapons. We do have an equivalent. They're not maul beasts, but there is some other big furry creature that do get ridden by ogres and do have rules. So maybe it's a possibility. We'll have to see. These are Iron Guts. This is a sample of a bunch of the different models. I think they come out of box 10. And yeah, these new helmets are kind of a new feature, which are kind of fun. I have to like the vibe for it. Much better than the previous model. So I kind of like them to do. I expect that they'll do a retweaking of the old models. Last I looked at, the profile was actually quite good. But one of the problems with ogres, obviously, is everything's expensive. Here we have hunters. Now, when I looked for the hunters, there were a bunch of different versions, like blood whaled hunters and kind of various like that. So maybe ogre hunters is again a new one, but these are guys with crossbows, basically. The saber fangs are also new. I was kind of expecting to be frost sabers, and maybe they can be frost sabers if you paint them white. But yeah, these are the frost sabers that we currently have are some of the oldest models in the range, and they're very dated. So delighted to see these Saber Fangs come out. And yeah, those are some pretty fun models. We do have a Butcher already. This is a new version of it. And then the Cleavers are brand new. So they seem to be mini Butchers, I guess. This is all horrifying. This is meat horror, which I do not like. But the models are quite cool, I guess. The Gutseers are similar. You can make them out of the same box as, what were the other ones? The Cleavers. You can make them out of the same box as the Cleavers, but they're a little bit more mystical. They've just got different heads, I think. I think the idea is that they're chopping in and looking at the entrails and trying to judge the future. So, again, dark and creepy, but quite nice models. Now, this one's one I'm interested in. So I don't think this is going to actually make it into Warcry. But in theory, if you wanted to, those two models on the side, so one's a Gutseer. I'm not sure what the other one would be with that giant sickle cleaver thing, but they're gorgeous models. And you might be able to just make the High Slaughtermaster without them and then have them as Warcry models off the side. That could be kind of fun. Speaking of giant models that I don't think we're going to get rules for, this is the Cogfort. Now, the Cogfort really is not suitable for Warcry in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, Games Workshop in their infinite wisdom made the Cogfort legal for every army across all of Age of Sigmar. So I think they just decided it's a great model, like, kind of the equivalent of a knight, and they just wanted to sell as many as possible. We might get rules on that basis. They'll probably be pretty fluffy. I doubt they'll be tournament level rules. Maybe, there might be some kind of scenic ones. Anyway, I'm not expecting us to get them. It'll be a madhouse if we do. This is Erasmus on, so our main character. He's obviously on a flying mount. He is I think it's a celestial wizard, a bright wizard of some kind. So there could be some magical abilities by boosting people and helping people out. Malice Forge Priest. Now we have another kind of mini Forge guy. So when you get your normal box of steel helms, one of the guys is kind of a priestish guy. So hopefully it'll be something like that, but boosted. Obviously the warrior priests of the ages of the old world, had ass-kicking giant hammers and were very, very cool. This could be similar. I haven't assembled mine, but I don't like that head. I don't like the other head as well. I might be able to get a different head. Anyway, that's a problem for another day. We have two other spellcasters. So a Shaishian Nell Mage and a Pyrocaster. So I know from looking at the Age of Sigmar rules that the Nell Mage was shutting down a unit's ability to get orders. So we might see something where it can target a unit and the unit can no longer use abilities, maybe something along those lines. And then the Pyromaster was just extra damage and fire and murder and death, because that's how they roll. Okay, Free Guild Gallants. This will be interesting. So we have knight models. There already are mounted models of these, and this is them not mounted. But they're chunky armored guys. So they're going to be somewhere between a steel helm and a Stormcast, but not quite so Stormcasty. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with them. But the models are beautiful. There's tons of different options. The heads are actually interchangeable. And I think the shields as well are interchangeable with the other set, the mounted set. And you have extra heads and extra bits. So there's a lot of options and a lot of uniqueness that you can make out of them. I love this kit. It's very, very cool. Another character model. This is Jorvan Krell. I'm not sure if he's available independently, but he's in the City of Ash box set. And yeah, he's got a panther as his companion. In Age of Sigmar, they do use Tixa as a token, which is annoying. Hopefully they won't do that in Warcry, because it would be great. The abilities Krell has seem to be some sort of teleporting or moving around, flexible weaponry or something weird like that. So yeah, he's got big swords, he's got shields, he's got little throwing daggers, and obviously he's got a panther. So it'll be interesting. I hope we do get rules for him. I hope they move away from this idea of not having character models in and just go whole hog. Sure, why shouldn't they? This is probably the most exciting one. It's the Free Guild Grenadiers. I know there's been discussion about it over whether it is originally designed for Warcry or not. I'm not going to dwell on it at the moment, but it's got lots of great elements for a Warcry warband. Now, arguably, it could be a warband all by itself, which will be interesting to see. If they add it straight into just a Stormcast, the Stormcast are going to have tons of options. Because as you can see here, we've got a Flamethrower at the bottom, you've got a Sergeant in the middle. Just above the Sergeant, you've got a Grenadier. Up to the right of that Grenadier, you've got the multi... I don't know, scatter gun thing, and they're all armed with two-handed axes and with some sort of rifle / cannon thing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they stat these out. As you can see, they're all in at least mail with chunky helmets. Yeah. Yeah, hard to know. Some plate in there. Anyway, it's going to be a fun unit, and I'm looking forward to seeing this get some rules. Maybe we won't get Gate Gargut rules. That does seem a little excessive. Again, they'd have to redo all the monster stuff, and they'd have to tune into that. That's everything for Age of Sigmar. This is the Head Knight Slash, just the one model, the Lord of Hysteria, which is a human bonded with a demon, and I think all of that smoke you're seeing there is for boosting their allies, whipping them into a frenzy to go crazy and do stuff. Head Knights of Daughters of Cain, Frenzy already there. These are the Blood Hags, which are, again, some very cool models. So lots of two-handed, two-handed and then double-ended spears. Bidens. I guess these are Bidens. We can use the Bident weapon symbol, which only gets used a handful of times in Warcry, but exists for some reason. And the firearm one doesn't. Most upsetting. Anyway, yes. Interesting, because Daughters of Cain aren't in a great place at the moment. So they kind of suffer from the elf tax, whereby they're very fast, they do great damage, but they kind of get killed all the time. These are a little bit more up-armored than your normal Daughters of Cain. So yeah, maybe they could help win that round. That could be very, very interesting. We'll see how that goes. As an aside, scenery pieces. This is Shrine of Dark Tribute. I think this has rules and stuff, but for Warcry, it might be a fun scenery piece. I doubt you're able to get anyone on... Actually, I don't know how big this is. This might actually be massive. But I don't think you'll be able to balance it on the stairs, but you might be able to get people up at the top and jumping off them and stuff like that. So that could be kind of fun. All right, this is the Magakin of Nurgle. Now, this is actually two factions, and I'm not going to differentiate because I'm not sure which is which. We have the demon side. So Magakin and Nurgle, there's the demon side, and then there's the... what are the other side called? Magakin. The Rotbringers. Okay, so anything that's kind of human-like is going to be on the Rotbringer side. So I suspect most of these will actually make it the Rotbringer side. These are all character models from Warhammer Quest Dark Water, and did get a separate release all by themselves. This one, again, is that situation of a special character and mounted and big. This is Festus the Leech Lord. I'm not expecting this to get a release in Warcry, but they could. And yeah, this is probably going to be more on the demons side, if that makes sense. All right. Putrid Blight Kings. So I think we already have Blight King rules. Let me double check that. Blight King. Oops, spelled that. I'm just going to check on Warcry. Yeah, so we already have Putrid Blight King Blight Lords. So, we may not necessarily need an update for these. Blight Lord. But they would have to have a look through and see where the weapon factors in. Are those the ones that are... Oh, those are the ones that are flying around, aren't they? So I'm not necessarily sure. We've got it with Blight weapons, so 110 points. We've got it for shields. Yeah, okay. So we've got rules for these already. Maybe maybe they won't need to redo things, but maybe they can. To be honest, there's so many new models for this, they could probably do a full redo of the entire faction. Here are the Characterborn. Again, big things. So these are three-headed demon things with giant swords or giant axes. Could be quite scary. Sloven Knights. These were part of the separate release that came after Darkwater. So armored guys with mounts, always a good thing. Hopefully they're a little bit faster than their Sloven suggests. Wrought Swords, great box, great kit. yeah, should be some fun models in here. Again, do we have rot swords? We don't. There's an ability rot sword stab, so they're vaguely mentioned, but these could be kind of a new kind of core unit for the Rotbringers, which would be fun. Pox Redges, brand new. They just look like cheap chaff fighters, right? That's always going to be a good thing. Yeah, hard to go wrong. And then these are the Pestigores, which are kind of going to be a slow stage up. Again, I'm not quite sure where the divide between Rotbringers and demons are going to be. So we might see the Pestigores in with the demons, and we might see those other rotters. No, they weren't rotters, whatever they were, with the Rotbringers. But again, cool models, good to see. And there is actually a separate set of these. So these are the ones that come in the box set with Darkwater. They're different insofar as that they have shields. That's it. They have shields, so they're similar enough, but they're kind of an altered version of it. This is another one that appears in Darkwater, doesn't appear anywhere else. These are slightly more armored up, the Blight Knights, and then Mulgoth the Cleaver is a character version of it. He's kind of the second in command in Darkwater. Again, gorgeous models, hideous models. These are. I actually don't like Nurgle at all. I avoid them at all costs. They just look gross. And anyway, enough about me. These are the Mire Kelpies, and there's a couple of tokens in there as well. I would be surprised if they gave these any rules. I don't think they will, but these are from the Darkwater box. Now, one thing that they didn't do last time, so with Curse City, we weirdly eventually got rules for one of the models in the Dark City box. I think the Witch Hunter was the only one we got rules for out of the hero side. We got rules for all of the undead, all of the vampires. They have a complete set of rules, but for whatever reason we didn't. Hopefully they will not make that mistake this time, and we will actually see rules for all of these models. If we do, there's a smorgasbord of stuff. So we're probably looking at a lot of stuff for Age of Sigmar. I don't know where that dwarf is going to go. Sylvaneth probably going to get that Keltanor, that Senator Prince bottom left. Maybe they'd get that werewolf thing on top right. And I guess most of the rest of it is going to go into Age of Sigmar. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It might cause a bunch of models. Like, I think the Age of Sigmar side is getting a little packed. I wouldn't be shocked if they split up a couple of the models we've seen, especially the Grenadiers, into their own sub-factions. But yeah, as long as there's rules, I don't care. This is Disciples of Siege. One of the things that they do is when there's a new rulebook coming out for whatever the codex equivalent is, they often just give a one model release, and this is what Disciples of Siege got. This is a Fate Master. So it's Siege. Who knows what it could do? Probably going to be some magic. It's got a nice big two-handed spear cleaver thing. So this is Luminate Realm Hordes. This is the same box. So they get Venari Lord Regent, which is a kit that is quite flexible and can make a bunch of different versions of this. So yeah, we might get variants of that. So the one on the left obviously is, or not obviously, is it the same sword? I think that might be a two-handed sword. I don't think he has a shield, whereas the guy on the right does have the shield. So we'll see what these rules are going to look like. War options. Luminate Realm also are getting Tyrael's Zyphorites. Now, Warhammer Underworld's models are always super, super, super interesting. So here we've got, at the very top left, you've got an archer, and on the top right, you've got an archer. It's also two more archers. You've obviously got some sort of fox spirit thing. You've got a caster. Not sure what the guy in the middle is doing, but could be really interesting. In fact, the Warhammer Underworld's models often get rules that are too cool for school, so we'll have to see how they approach it. The lackluster ones tend to be ones where they look at the main set of models and just make a tiny tweak and maybe overcost it slightly. That's a safe way, but at the same time we've seen it in the other direction where they've given fantastic rules to new models, and I'm not always upset. Like, these are beautiful models. Getting a season table would be very cool. This is the Ossiarchs, so the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. This is Elite Mortok. I don't know what that means. A guy with a sword and shield. It's one of their leaders. I think the Mortecs are the kind of standard troops. So I think what this is probably a cheaper commander, or for Warcry, it'll be a cheaper leader. So, that could be good. That could be good. This unlikely to get a War Chariot, but this is Elite Cavalos, which is one of the more senior guys. And he has constructed out of bones a two mounts and a chariot to go around on. Lovely looking model. It's probably going to be great in Age of Sigmar army, but again, I don't think we're going to see it in Warcry. We did get a ranged unit in one of the Warhammer Underworlds boxes for the Aussie Arc Bone Reapers. So this box, and the reason I've got it displayed so weirdly, is this Mortek Triax box has 24 archers in it, which is bonkers. The profile that I saw for the existing one, for the Warhammer Underworld one, wasn't particularly great. I've got it here. So it's 15 range, it's 2 attacks, 3 strength, 1-3. So kind of lackluster damage. What's that doing? It's an average of 1.3 damage. So it's not doing a lot. But it could transform this particular faction if they're able to take a ton of them. So it was 70 points for 1. So you could take how many? 12? Is that right? Something like that. You could take a big chunk of them. Now, they do also have those braziers. We've seen those before. The Cyberites do have a very cheap unit that's one of those. Although, it's someone carrying it, whereas this, I suspect that walks around by itself because it's made of bone. Anyway, this could be interesting. We'll see how it works out. I'm a little bit more interested in the next unit, though. So next up, we have the very cool-looking Mortis Reapers. I have to admit, I'm not necessarily a fan of most of the Aussie Arc looks, but this one looks very, very sinister, very, very cool. So what we got? Double cleavers, double swords, some sort of... I'm not sure what those mists coming out is. It'll be fun to find out. So, and then another Warhammer Underworld. So I think there's only these 2 missing. This has 2 of those Reapers, and I don't know what those things to the top left and the top and the bottom right are. I guess they're collecting things because this is part of the tide, so they might just be boxes for putting stuff in. So they might be just carrying guys. Weird. Sylvaneth, get 1 model. I don't think this is going to get rules. This was the Grove Guardian, which was kind of a Valentine's thing. So I think it's more of a kind of a seasonal pretty model rather than an intended play piece. But that's my perspective. It is quite big. So yeah, again, I'm not expecting it to get Warcry rules. This is Skaven. They don't get a lot. They do get Deathmaster Crixit. He may not get rules because we already have the Deathmaster in there, and you could play him with those rules instead. Fantastic model, though. And, if they were to give us a slightly boosted up Deathmaster for more points, that could be fun, too. This is the main box they got, the only box they got. So it can be built as Gutter Runners or Night Runners, which is nice. Night Runners are the cheaper versions, and the Gutter Runners are the more elite of the Escher Assassins. Most importantly, we do have the Bomb Rats. So the Bomb Rats, the Bomb Rat, and we have a Bomb Rat from one of the Underworld warbands, and it just runs up and then explodes, which is a lot of fun. So we might be able to get more. So it looks like each box has 2 of them in it. So we can expect rules for that. All right, that is everything. That is everything that we've been able to see on the upcoming. Everything we can kind of expect. So these are all the Age of Sigmar models that are missing and don't have rules yet. Just to round up, I do want to have a quick mention of Warcry in general. So obviously our last release was back in April 2024, so it's been quite a while. Last PDF was November 2025, so it's about 8 months ago. We are seeing gaps, but people are still playing. People are still active. The Reddit community is still looking at about 11k visitors each week, which, as a metric is something to look at. Now, that's not the 571k of 140k, but it compares well against some of the other supported games. So Blood Bowl is around 17k, Legion Imperialis is 16.3, and Underworlds is 2.6. So Warcry is still performing better than Legion Imperialis and Underworlds right now. We're also, for the last 2 years, there have been regular enough tournaments at Warhammer World. All, to my knowledge, have been well sold out. So we're probably going to see any tweaks are probably going to be based on tournament results out of that. So if you're interested to see whether your faction is going to get nerfed or boosted, it might be worth having a look at some of the listings and see who was winning those tournaments, and any kind of assessment you can make out of that. I also want to mention that Warcry has been doing really, really well. That is that fan-made system using the more time setting in the Warcry rules. It got a really nice boost when it was covered on wargamer.com. So they gave it an article, that gave it a little bit more visibility. So at the moment, that's at 0.5 version, so it was 0.4 last I checked in. So it's now got Echelon Mercenaries, what it had before, but it's now also got Witch Hunters, Cult of the Possessed, Sisters of Sigmar, and the Undead. It's also got those mutants in there as well. Yeah, it's called Possessed. Okay. They've also added a Warcry style wiki, which has an online wordband builder, making it a whole lot more accessible. And one thing that kind of surprised me, I was checking it recently, is they also added in Weird Forge, which is it's kind of the back end that they've been using themselves for a homebrew. So it's to help out people if they want to make their own homebrew rules, which is a very, very cool idea. Okay, so sum up, Warcry is ticking along in the background. It is a great game. We're still getting Age of Sigmar models, which are absolutely fantastic. The rules are out there and they're for free, so it's actually really easy to get into if you know what to do. And that's the trick. So right now, GW doesn't advertise it and doesn't have an easy pipeline into the game. So it is quite hard to get new people involved. But normally what they do is they'll post on Reddit asking what to do, and a bunch of the players will get them on speed, and you're able to have games within the same day, to be honest. So it is kind of hard to know what's happening with GW internally, but that video that I played at the start is really positive. Obviously, we're getting the FAQ, but it does make it sound like they want to tell us more about what's happening. Now, obviously, that could be there's no more support happening and we're just shutting it all down. But at the same time, I suspect it's more likely that they're going to give us a new version eventually. It's certainly within their interest. GW is in a weird situation, I think, where each department seems to need to justify itself. And Warcry is really, really good at driving Age of Sigmar sales or even Warhammer Underworld sales, but it wasn't getting the credit for those. So I think hopefully GW will realize that and can move ahead with this. Anyway, I am getting well off topic. The important part here is that we have a lot to look forward to, and this is an exciting time. So get your hype machine going. Think about what models you would like to get rules for. If you're liking the models, maybe pick them up and start painting them now, so you'll have them ready when the rules come out. Otherwise, keep an eye out on Warhammer Community and the various Warcry channels. And when things come out, we will do our best to get people up to date, get Warcry up to date, and get playing new games with new models. And I'm looking forward to it and excited. All right, that's me. Have a great week, and I will talk to you all soon.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week, I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.